Hi, everyone. We're actually back with this week's like burning divorce question or something that's come up in our group quite often and we've talked about, and we're going to share it with you guys because it's always really relevant. So this week was, it came up a lot that people just feeling really guilty because they're not being successful or are successful in their co-parenting, right? And they're putting a lot of pressure on themselves because it's just not working and they're trying hard, right? So Heather, you made a point earlier, like kind of with the root of it, you take over.
So, when you and I were talking about this earlier this week, one of the conversations and one of the points that I had brought up is I watch and talk to a lot of my friends that have quote unquote intact families. They're living under the same roof and have a great relationship, but they're also not co-parenting successfully. It's really hard when we just each naturally have different parenting styles. And so even a lot of my friends are like, I feel like I'm, you know, parallel parenting under the same roof. And parallel parenting is that, you're not necessarily consulting the other party on how you're reacting to a situation. And so maybe like the one parent's at home when the child comes home from school and they have one reaction. And then later on, the other parent who comes home later has a different reaction. And you're like, well, those are two different things. Like you're parallel parenting even under the same roof. And so, co-parenting is like, okay, I'm going to take a pause on this. Let me consult with my other parent, kind of be on the same page about how we handle different scenarios, and particularly when bigger and more serious things come up. And that's hard enough to do under the same roof, and then to try to extrapolate that out to being under two different roofs and expect to be successful at it. And if you're either in the middle of a divorce or even if you've been divorced, you're dealing with a kind of a broken interpersonal relationship a lot of times. We still are like, we want to put the kids first and we want to try to successfully co-parent together. And it's incredibly difficult to do that. And statistically, I believe that it doesn't really work and out as often as you would like. I think it's similar to like a conscious uncoupling situation where that might work for like 5% of the population, but the other 95 have to go through some level of conflict and bumps and lumps in order to kind of dissolve their relationship. It's similar to that in the parenting relationship. And I also think in different stages of the kids' lives where there's higher conflict, maybe in teenage girl years, that the co-parenting becomes even more difficult. And so you could fall out of co-parenting and parallel parenting for a while and then come back into it. So one of the things that Lila, you and I had talked about is giving yourself grace around the fact and not feeling like you're failing as a parent when you're not co-parenting, because even when you're parallel parenting, you're still parenting and you're there as the mother or the father of your children. And I think that's, important to give yourself some grace through that process. And I think we're really hard on ourselves in that space in divorce.
Absolutely. I mean, we hear it all the time. And it's also one of the things that I think it holds us back a lot because we think that we're doing it for the children, but actually the kids are always led by how we're feeling, how we're reacting on things. And if we're trying so hard and it's failing, then they're feeling that rather than like, hey, we do this in this house. I get it that you do this at your, dad's or mom's house, but it's okay. We're going to do it. We do us here and then you do that there and that's okay. And giving them that permission also so they're not feeling bad around certain things, that helps them also ultimately. And they're
The
led by you.
realization of not having the expectation, right? It's even with the marriage we've talked when the divorce happens, right? We've even seen with the partners where they believe that their partner is going to step up all of a sudden in the divorce when they never stepped up in the marriage. It's the same with the parenting. If you have been the solo parent really in that marriage, it's not going to get better when you separate. They're all of a sudden not going to be this active parent. So learning that parallel parenting, right? Where you do you, I do me, and it's all for the benefit of the children. We don't always have to agree and be together on all all things child related.
Yeah. And it's accepting the fact that it is going to be different in the other house. And that's a hard thing for, parents to
Mhm.
do because we all believe how we do it is the right way. And unless your kids are in danger, obviously that's a totally different story. But if they're eating different food in the other house, or they're brushing their teeth at the same time, or they're going to bed a little bit later, all those things, annoying, I get it. But at the same time, it's okay. And they're adaptable and they're going to be all right with it. There can't always be a consistency between both homes. And just being okay with that makes you feel like, all right, I can do the best I can when I've got my kids here in this house.
I think your point, Lila, is really good because we see this all the time with um, our group, our community is I don't like to use the word control, but it really is. So if you have been the one that's making sure your child is eating all the nutritious food and getting to all the appointments on time and doing whatever it is that you're doing as that solo parent within that marriage, when that divorce happens and you lose control of that, and that's how many of our people feel that they're losing control, it's very, very hard to regulate yourself back in and allow that to happen because that is your child and you are concerned about them. And this other person has this impact on them that you can't manage like you did when you were in the marriage,
Mhm.
right? Now you can't
Mhm.
manage it. It's going to be the wild, wild west or whatever's happening. So that's a really important factor is like learning that it's going to be okay. They're going to survive. They do things at friends' houses too that you don't know about. So,
Totally. I mean, my mom was a health freak, and anytime I went into somebody, we had nothing in our pantry that was remotely like. But when I went to my friend's house, I ate it all. So, I mean, and again, it's like they're going to do what they want to do, and I think also I do want to say that they have a lot more appreciation for the parent that has more structure. Kids actually do end up having a lot more appreciation for that because they feel more secure. So even if they're not getting it in the other household, just realize that they're actually going to even appreciate more what they have in your household if you do have that kind of structure for them, and
Kids
hold that
want
space for them.
boundaries. They want to be able to bounce off of boundaries. They want to know that they've got an amount of leeway, but there is a stopping point for them that is
mhm.
expected.
Well, raising
Yeah.
children is a long game. It's like there's so many bumps on the way, and they're gonna test you. But like you just said, we know historically it's been proven children need boundaries, children need structure, and they may not like it when it's happening to them, but they are going to be better for it in the long run. So we're raising adults, we're raising human beings, we're there, it's a long game. So we really have to play it as the long game.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, I hope this conversation just was a little helpful also to understand that, parallel parenting is not failing at all. On the contrary, actually, it's more of a actually survival technique. And also it's the way forward in many ways, right? If you can't do the co-parenting, we get it. We understand it. And, it's an okay thing to do,
Yeah.
for lack
Yeah.
of a better
Give
word.
yourself grace and
Give
accept it.
yourself a lot of grace.
It's not a failure to be doing parallel parenting.
Yes. Big love to everyone.
Hello.